Hello. Welcome to another IT channel, Programming with Obed Krampa. This is the IT channel that teaches you everything in programming language and computer science. Good. Today we are going to do Java. Java is an object-oriented programming language. Alright. What I mean by an object-oriented programming language is that it uses objects and classes. Okay, Java is run by over 3.5 billion devices around the world. Okay, Java is owned by Larry Ellison, and he is the founder of Oracle, and he is the 7th richest person in the world with a worth of $93 billion. So he is basically rich because Java is used all over the world, and Java powers a lot of devices around the world. You can use Java for Android platform. You can use Java to create Android apps. You can use Java for web applications. You can use Java to create big database. You can use Java to create desktop applications. All right, so Java is one of the high in demand programming language. Okay, so let's start rolling. To start using Java, you need an IDE, integrated development environment. You need an IDE called Eclipse. Okay, I have it on my as you can see, I have it on my screen, as you can see. Okay, in the previous episode we used Notepad++ for JavaScript and Notepad for HTML, but we have advanced. I thought of starting an object-oriented programming language, and I chose Java before I go to Python. So just recommend this channel to any computer science student or IT student. Right, let's get rolling. The prerequisite for Eclipse is JDK, or the prerequisite for Java programming is JDK. That is the Java Development Kit. All right, so you need to go to a website and install the Java Development Kit. Good. So to install Java Development Kit or JDK, you need to type JDK. It will take you to a website, Oracle website. Click on Oracle. All right, you see the JDK here. We have the Java Software Engineer 16. That's the version, the latest version. All right, click on JDK download. Then come to, if you are, I'm using a 64-bit operating system, so I'll look for this executable file over here, what I have highlighted here, and download it and install. I'm not going to download it because I have already done that on my platform. So if you are starting with me, you need to download JDK, and after downloading JDK, you need to set the environment variable. All right, good. So let's go here. You can see that JDK is downloaded here for me. All right, this is JDK. Okay, this is JDK, and you need to set an environment variable. It means that you are assigning your JDK to a path which can be recognized by the Eclipse, the platform, the IDE. All right, so let's set our environment variable so that our JDK will be recognized by the operating system that we are using, that is Windows. So to do that, we go to local files, we go to program files. After downloading JDK, you need to install your JDK. So after installing JDK, you go to program files, you go to local disk, you go to local disk. After going to local disk, you go to program files. From program files, you go to Java. You can see it over here. From Java, you go to JDK. From JDK, you go to bin. From bin, you click on the arrow here, then you copy the link here. All right, you copy this link. After copying this link, close this file and click on the Windows Start menu, then click on variables. All right, what we are going to do here is that we are setting our operating system, our Windows operating system, to recognize our JDK. All right, so double click on edit system variables, then double click on environment variables, then double click on path where my arrow is, path. Then when you double click on path, click on new, then paste what you copied, the JDK bin that you copied, paste that link here. All right, if you don't see it, go over it again. I have already done that, so I'm not going to paste anything here. Then after that, close it. So after setting the path for our Windows operating system to recognize our JDK, our Java development kit, let's try and use the command prompt to reference it to see if it is rightfully set on our operating system. So this is where we go, Java, then you type version, then you click it. So it is here, Java system runtime. Yes, if you don't get this, it means you have not done it right. So after doing this, now you can download Eclipse. You open a browser, you click on Eclipse, then you click on the first link, which will straightforward link you to, then click on download. I've already downloaded it, so I don't need to download it again. All right, good. So after downloading it, this is how the Eclipse open. All right, let me close this. After downloading it, you need to run it as an administrator. Okay, watch here, this is downloads, and I have Eclipse here, so I have to right click it and run it as an administrator and install it on my PC, on my laptop, and create a shortcut. When installing it, on the finish button you see create a shortcut. Click on that, check that box. You have a shortcut on your desktop or laptop. Then we are done with having our Eclipse on our platform, on our laptop. So we are cool to go with Java programming now. We are starting with Java programming. All right, good. So let me explain the theory aspect of Java programming language. All right, Java programming language, the two main important concept of an object-oriented programming language is classes and objects. Okay, the two main important concept of an object-oriented programming language is classes and objects. Okay, so two main important concepts of an object programming language. Object of an object oriented programming language are classes and objects. All right, good. So let me explain classes and objects quickly. Let me explain objects. From object I'll come and explain classes. Okay, so an object, so let me clean this. I'm explaining objects. An object oriented programming language is created with an interacting object. Good. Object oriented programming language is created with an interacting object. And what are these interacting objects? The interacting objects consist of data and the operations to manipulate this data. Good. The interacting object consists of, I have defined object and I have told you object-oriented programming language are styled with interacting object, and this interacting object consists of data and operations to manipulate this data. Good. So let me give you an example of object and let me give you an example of data. When I'm done with that, I'll give you operations to manipulate this data. Good. All right, So for example, I'm giving you an example of an object in Java programming language. We can go to a school. We have a student. The student is an object. Student is an object. Good. The data involving this object is of a particular student is his name, his age, his gender, his performance in class, his home address, his phone number. So these are all data, okay, but the object here is student. So an object oriented programming language consists of data and operations to manipulate this data. Good. So I've given you an example of the object and the data. Now what I am going to do is explaining these operations to manipulate this. Remember in our previous episode studying JavaScript, I told you examples of operators in JavaScript. I told you about arithmetic operators and 1, 2, logical operators, 3, assignments operators. Good. What do we do with these operators? These operators will be used to assign value to this data. All right, these operators will be used to assign values to this data. So these operators will help to manipulate this data. The interacting object consists of data and the operations to manipulate this data. So anytime we give an object comes with object and classes comes with methods and message. So what are methods and objects? What I'm doing here is that I'm explaining the theory of an object oriented programming language. When I'm done explaining the theory of an object oriented programming language as Java, we will start writing our first code in Java. Good. So object and classes have methods and messages. What are these? Objects and classes have methods and messages. All right, I told you that the main two important concept of object oriented programming languages are classes and objects, and I have told you here that objects and classes have methods and messages. So what do these methods and messages do? Messages here tells messages. Good. Messages tells the object what to do. All right, I gave you an example of an object as student. So writing something to tell the student to do something is a message. We are telling the student to do something, it's a message. The student is an object. Okay, objects and classes have methods. Okay, objects and classes have methods and messages, and I have explained the messages to you. Okay, if you are telling the student as an object to do something, it's a message. But for the method, for the object and classes to be able to receive this message, the message has to be the method has to carry the message. The method has to instruct the message. All right, for good, I'm coming for the objects to perform the messages it receives. It has to be instructed by the methods. Good. Have told you that objects and classes have methods and messages. Message tells the object what to do, but for the objects and classes to be able to perform a message it receives, it has to be instructed by methods. Good. So how do you write a method, and how do you write an object, and how do you use classes in Java programming language? That is what we are going to do. So the two main important concepts of object-oriented programming languages are classes and objects. I have explained objects. Now let me explain classes. Good. Classes are templates that tells the that dictates let me use dictates that dictates what the object should do and should not do. Good. The two main concepts are the two main important concepts of object-oriented programming languages are objects and classes. I've finished explaining classes. Now I've finished explaining objects. Now I'm explaining classes, and I'm trying to tell you that classes are templates that dictate what the object should do and should not do. All right, so I think from here we can open our visual, we can open our from here we can open our Eclipse and start doing something. Okay, let me minimize my screen here. Let me minimize my screen. Let me be here and let me start something. All right, let's start something. Let me open my Eclipse. All right, but before that, let me teach you types of data values. This programming channel is dedicated to teach you practicals. Okay, I'm not focused on theory, so I'll be doing a little about theory but be doing more of practicals. So one aspect that you need to learn in object-oriented programming languages are data values. I already gave you an example of data and I have told you values. So in our previous data values, no, let me close the Eclipse. Okay, let me close Eclipse and explain something. Let me explain a lot of theories. There's still some theories to data values. Types of data values. When you hear data values, I've already explained data to you using student and name and others as objects and the data as name, age and everything. But now what are values? Data values. I have explained data to you. Now values. I explained to you that when you, in my previous episode, when studying JavaScript, okay, do you remember when we were studying JavaScript? I explained to you that when you declare a variable, you initialize it. Initializing a variable means you are assigning a value to it. Good. So here we have data values. Data values in Java. Okay, so I'm going to explain this to you, but I'll be doing it practical. But I want to give you a brief theory concerning data values in Java. There are two types of data values in Java: the one that cannot be changed and the one that can be changed. The one that can be changed is a variable. A variable is a placeholder that is set to store a data and can be changed during the execution of a program. I gave you this definition during the JavaScript tutorial. Good. So I am explaining to you that data values in Java include variables, and we have constant variables, and we have constant variables that cannot change, and we have variables data value, and have constant variables. So let's go. Constant variables. Okay, then we have variables. These are the two types of data values. Okay, these are the two types of data values in Java. Good. So how these variables means that it can be changed during the execution of a program. You can change it, and these are constant, meaning in your code you can, when it is 5, when the value is 5, you cannot change it. And declaring a constant variable, you use a keyword called frozen in declaring constant variable. You use the keyword called frozen. Okay, so frozen means that the value of the variable cannot be changed, and there are four kinds of data value. I've taught you types of data value. Now I'm going to use kinds of data value. 4 kinds of data value. That's a class variable. I've already explained to you the definition of class, what class means. Sorry, class variable. Then we have class constant. All right, class constant. Good. Then we have instance variables. Instance here means object. Instance variables. Then we have what? So from the preceding, you can know the next, you can guess what our right next. It means instance constant. All right, instance constants. Good. All right. Good. After doing this, the next thing I want to teach you in programming language are the principles of object-oriented programming language. Goose. All right. The principles of object-oriented programming language. So let's go. The principles of object-oriented programming. To understand object-oriented programming language, you need to know these principles. Okay, to understand object-oriented programming language, you need to know this principle. And the first principle I'm going to teach you, there are 4 types of principles. The first principle I'm going to teach you is inheritance. Let me face my camera. The first principle I'm going to teach you is inheritance. To understand object-oriented programming language, you need to know the principles. We have the 4 types of principles in object-oriented programming languages are 1. Inheritance, 2. Encapsulation, 3. Polymorphism, and 4. Abstraction. Okay, so this is what I want us to learn, and this is what I am going to teach. Before we start with the theory, this is the practicals. So before we start with the theories, I want us to learn the principles of object-oriented programming language. All right, good. So there's a lot of theory. How to explain object-oriented programming language to a 6-year-old. Good. There's a lot of theory behind inheritance, which you can get online, which I am trying to get for you, but I want to give you a simple understanding of what I am doing. Okay, there's a lot of theory behind inheritance. The principle, one of the principles of object-oriented programming language is inheritance, and there's a lot of theory behind inheritance. Okay, there's a lot of theory behind this. You can read this from the internet, blah 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 blah, but I want to give you a simple definition to what it actually means. After taking my definition, you can as well Google for more definition. So let's say inheritance lets you inherit attributes and methods from another class. All right, let me give you this simple explanation of inheritance in object-oriented programming language. Inheritance lets you inherit attributes and methods from another class. Inheritance lets you inherit attributes and methods from another class. Good. Then what does polymorphism means? But before, I am trying to say inheritance is a principle of object-oriented programming language, and its function, its role is that it lets you inherit attributes and methods from another class. You remember I told you that another concept of object-oriented programming languages are messages and methods. When you have object and class, you can write messages and methods. Then I explained to you. If you don't understand what I said about messages and methods, go back. All right, every class and object has its own messages and methods, and the role of this I have already explained. Good. So when you are using inheritance in object-oriented programming language, it helps you to inherit attributes and methods from another class. Do you understand that? Now let's go to polymorphism. Good. Let's go to, did I get the spelling correct? Let's go to polymorphism. All right, what is polymorphism? Polymorphism, there's a lot of explanations on the internet, but I want to give you a simple explanation. Read down to make complex polymorphisms, many shapes in Greek, blah 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 blah. So we already know the power of inheritance, how to use it, but there comes say we have a parent class and blah 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 blah. Polymorphism uses those methods to perform different tasks, and this allows us to perform a single action in a different ways. I'm trying to explain polymorphism to you. When you are using polymorphism in object-oriented programming language, it helps methods to perform different tasks. For instance, inheritance lets you inherit methods from another class. Now what polymorphism will do for you, that it will help you to use these methods to perform different tasks in a single unit. So polymorphism will let you use the methods you inherited from another class using the inheritance principle. Using the inheritance principle to inherit method. After inheriting methods from another class using the inheritance principle, polymorphism will let you use those methods to perform a different task, all right, a different task in different ways. So consider a lot of theory behind polymorphism on the internet. What I'm trying to say is that if you use inheritance principle to inherit methods from another class, polymorphism will let you use the methods you inherited to perform different tasks in different ways in a single unit, in a single unit. All right, good. I think it's okay. So let's go to the third principle. The third principle I want to explain is encapsulation. All right, did I get my spelling correct? Encapsulation simply means enclose. That's something in a capsule. All right, for instance, let me say in an English language, I would say the company wants you to encapsulate the rubber waste into a concrete pallet or something using the same encapsulation means enclosed. All right, simply means enclosed. So in Java, encapsulation means wrapping the data, that's the variable and also the methods acting on it, together in a single unit. So putting encapsulation means putting the data and variables and methods acting on it into a single unit. All right, putting the data and variables and methods acting on it into a single unit. If you encapsulate in Java, it means that the data of a class is hidden from other classes. Are you understanding what I'm saying? If you encapsulate, I'm trying to say, if you encapsulate in Java, the data, the methods of another classes is hidden from other classes. That is what I mean with encapsulation. All right, good. If you encapsulate in Java, it means that the data of a class is hidden from other classes. Let me write this. If you encapsulate in Java, it means the data of the class you have encapsulated is hidden from other classes. Good. So if I use a class called Obed, if I use example, if I use good example, I'll start coding very soon. We will open our Eclipse and start coding very soon. Example, if I use encapsulation in my class whilst writing a Java program, it means the methods of that class is hidden from another class. They cannot access it. So you can declare variables in a class as private and write public methods in a class to set and get the values of the variables. Do you understand? I'm trying to say that you can declare variables in a class as private and you can write public methods in the class to set and get values of the variables of the same class that you are working with. The variables can be private but the methods can be public. That is encapsulation. Working with one class, you can do what? You can make the variables in that class private. So I have made the variables in Obed class private, but in that same class I can make my methods of that class public. If I make my methods of that class public, it means I can manipulate the message I want to send to that methods of that same class. It means I can get the values of that variables because I have made the methods public. So even though that the variables of that same class are private, the public methods, the methods that I have made it public, can get the values of that variables. In that same class, listen here, I'm trying to explain it in my common wisdom. In that same class, I can make methods of that class public and use it to get the values of the private variables in that same class. All right, so if you don't understand this, you read it over and over and over again. Let's go to the last one. The last principle of object-oriented programming languages are abstraction. So what, in simple man's language, what do you understand by abstraction? Abstraction, let me try and see if I can get a vivid explanation from the internet. Okay. Abstraction can be thought of a natural extension of encapsulation. There's a lot of theory behind these things. I don't like it. It makes learning difficult. Applying abstraction means that each object should only expose high level of mechanics. A lot of English behind this. See, abstraction means you are hiding the relevant information. You are revealing the good. Let me come this way. Abstraction simply means that you are revealing abstraction simply means that you will hide the unnecessary information from the user and show only the important information to the user. Good. So when you are using abstraction in your programming language, when using abstraction in your programming language, it means you are hiding the unnecessary, am I getting my spellings correct? Unnecessary information from the user, and you will reveal only necessary information to the user. All right, so what am I trying to explain here? Revealing the necessary information to the user and hiding the unnecessary information. So let me put this example across. For instance, a car. You go to a car, you see the dashboard of a car. When your brake fluid is not working, you receive a signal in your speed. You see a signal in your speedometer. There's everything to tell you that the brake fluid, the gear, or there's your light or something, or a door is not well closed. This information in a car will be revealed to you at the steering wheel, where your dashboard is, your speedometer. Okay, but it is only revealing the necessary information to you. How speedometer was created is not necessary to you, the driver. That is what we are trying. That is what abstraction simply means. You are sitting in a car, you have to change it to second gear. You have to do it and apply the rule. How it was created to have a second gear is not relevant to you. What is relevant to you as a driver is how to send it to the second gear, and not how second gear was created. I'm done with this example. Let's start coding. All this theory, we will be applying all this theory in our programming. So I am done explaining the important aspect of object-oriented programming language to you. I've explained classes and objects, I've explained message and methods, I've explained object, I've explained the definition of class, I've come to principles of object oriented programming language, I've explained inheritance, polymorphism, encapsulation and abstraction. Now let's get the ball rolling. All right, we'll be doing real coding now. So let's open our IDE, Eclipse, and let's start rolling. We are going to create our first program in JavaScript. All right. We are going to create our first program in JavaScript. So we wait as it load. This is the beginner stage of Java programming language. Java is used to create Android mobile apps and create desktop applications. It's used to create database, big database. Okay, it's used to create web server applications. So it's good to create. It's good to learn Java. It's an object-oriented programming language. Examples of object-oriented programming languages are PHP, Python, a lot. C++, C#, a lot. The prerequisite to learn Java is one. Okay, we'll be using a lot of examples. Good. So let's start rolling. How do you create your first project in JavaScript? That is what I am going to teach you. The Eclipse IDE, integrated development environment, has been opened. This is how it opens. If you have installed it for the first time, you are going to see something like, if you have installed it for the first time, you are going to see something like a workspace, something here. You can close it. Then you have this space, you have this front page. All right, the next thing we are going to do here is click on file, then go to new. On new, click Java project. All right, now project name. Have you seen the location here? This is the folder that will be installed, will save on your local drive, your computer. This is not the name, this is the folder where our file will be saved. We are creating a project, a Java project. So we are creating a project, but project name here is a folder that will be created for you. So what should be the name of our folder? Because this is our first project in JavaScript, so I'm going to call it first project. First project. All right, after writing first project, it will be saved on C users device, Eclipse, workspace, first project. So check whatever operating system you are using. Just look for this default location. This project will be saved there. After we have done with this project and you want to reference it, you want to look at where your project file was saved, this is the location, the URL to it. Okay, good. So after that, click on finish. All right, program is taking time to create first project. Good. When you come here, click on don't create. We are not creating another project, so just click on don't. We have our project here. All right, when you see our project, click on the arrow, then click on source. We are trying to create our first project, so After creating first project, click on the arrow to expand it, then click on source. System library is where we will have all the necessary functions, methods, built-in functions, the library that contains whatever you can use in Java programming language. This is the file, okay, but this is the source directory for our source code. So when you put the arrow, the cursor on source, just right click on source. Yes, when you right click on source, click on class. Good. Now we are going to create a project. All right, we are going to create a project in JavaScript. All right, I have told you that JavaScript uses objects and classes, the two main important concepts. Okay, and I have explained to you that class, or even if I didn't give you the definition for class, I said class is a template that dictates what an object should do and should not do. Okay, so in order for you to create an object, you have to create a class first. So that is why we click on Java class. Any programming that you are going to do in Java, it has to start with class. That is why the IDE has provided for you class. Good. So let's name our class as, I'm going to give first example, so let me call it example. Let's start with an uppercase. Type name is discouraged by convention. Java type name usually start with an uppercase. I actually did this for you to know that we need example. So after naming our class as example, the next thing we are going to do is check this box. Which method stubs would you like to create? Check this first box, public static void main. I will explain to you the reason why we are checking this box. After checking the box, just click on finish. Then we have our class created. Our first program can be created here. All right, let's wait for it as it loads. Wow, we are going to create our first project in JavaScript. Public class example. I will explain what it actually means to you. All right, good. Let me have a full screen and start coding. All right, can you see me here? Can you see me here? Can you see me here? Can you see me? Let me minimize it more. I want to have a full screen. All right, let's get rolling. Let's get rolling. I'm going to write a program. Okay, I'm going to write a program. Our first coding. I'm going to write our first coding in JavaScript. How to use JavaScript to Java. How to use Java to display an information. Okay, then our compiler. The compiler is actually is our Java virtual machine is what handles the compiler. Okay, so the compiler compiles our code. It simply means that the compiler changes our code from byte code to machine code so that we can understand it. Okay, so after writing something that wants to display on the screen, we will use the compiler. The compiler will compile it for us. All right, after writing something, the compiler will compile it for us. Good. So I've explained to you the job of the compiler. The compiler is handled by the Java virtual machine. JVM, and is responsible to convert our byte code into machine code so that we can read it. All right, so let's minimize our screen and start rolling. All right, so I'm going to display an information on the screen. Display an information on the screen. All right. Okay, so let me try and explain this package. I've already explained this package to you. Now let me go to public class example. All right, the keyword class here is being used to define and declare a class called example. If you want to create a class, Java programming languages and object-oriented programming languages start by declaring a class. So before you declare or define a class, you have to use this keyword called class, and it is public. Example, the example here is an identifier. That's the name of the class. The entire class definition, including all of its members, will be between the opening curly bracket and the close curly bracket. This curly bracket, let me highlight it. This curly bracket. Okay, class here is a keyword, which means that we have defined a class, we have declared a class. Example here is an identifier. So what is the function of this public static void main argument and everything? Good. Public static main. This line begins with main. This line begins with main. Main. Let's focus on this main. Main. This method is where the execution of the program starts. When you write a program, for instance, in every programming language, the program starts compiling, starts executing. The code starts running from a certain point. So this is a built-in method. It's a built-in method which will tell the Java file, it will tell this file example.java that you should start compiling this source code from main. So wherever you see main, it means that our program is going to start compiling from here. So you can declare a lot of classes, but there should be only one class that will have this main in it. Main means that our program will start compiling from here. Okay, that's the reason for the main, the keyword here. All right, the public here is a keyword, and is access specifier, which means that the members outside the method can access it and use the main method. The public here, this main here is a method which tells our program that our program will start executing from main. All right, and the class here will help us to create this method. All right, every object-oriented programming language begins with class. Okay, and I've explained to you what this class is. It's a keyword that shows that example here is a class, it's an identifier. It means we can create methods and main and manipulate this class. All right, good. So this class can have objects, it can have method, we can send message to the methods to manipulate it and all that. It can have values, it can have variables, it can have data values. All right, good. So the main here, every program starts executing from the main. So the main here tells our compiler that will turn our code, our byte code, into machine code. It will start executing from here. So you can make a lot of Google search on this main. Okay, but the best definition is that execution of a program starts from this main. Okay, good. So now what is there to explain again? The public here tells us that tells this code, it tells this method that members outside of the method can access it and use the main method. It is public. It means methods outside this class, can use it. All right, methods outside this class called example can use this public static void main, can use this method. That is why we put public here. Okay, good. Then we have explained main, the execution of the program. We have explained public. Now static. What does static here means? Static allows the main to be called without having to instantiate a particular instance of a class. What I'm trying to say is that static allows us to call the main method. Static here allows us to call this main method. Static will let us call this method that, hey, come here and start executing. Right? Static here will do that job. Okay, without the word static here, then we have to create an object. We have to create an object of this class. Okay, but the static here will make us start, will call our program that, hey, you can use main. Okay, good. So we don't have to create another object of the class. Static here will let us use, will call the program to start executing from main without using another object. We will write another object to tell this class that, hey, come and start executing from here. Do you understand what I'm trying to explain? I'm trying to explain that the static, if we don't use the static, if we don't use this static, if we don't use the static, then we will have to create an object for the class to tell the class that come and start executing from the main method. This opening and closing brackets here are parentheses, as I taught in JavaScript. Okay, it gives us a clue that this main here is a method. Okay, so I've explained why we are using the static. Good. Right, so what is there to explain again? Void. When you create a class, all this has been automatically given to you, because when you create a class, the first class shows that your program is going to start executing from here. That is why this has been automatically embedded for you to start executing your program from here. Okay, and the static keyword, I have explained to you why it is there, and the public, I have explained to you why it is there. Now I have explained main. Now it is left with void. When you create a method, you can pass values to the method. Okay, when you create a method, you can pass values to the methods. Like this main, we can pass values to the method by passing values to the method. Means that we are putting variables here in this bracket, like my name is Obed, comma, grandpa is my surname, comma. So this main here, this method main here has received what? Has received variables, and they are called arguments. If we pass variables into a method, it is called argument. But this main here are variables, so they can do what? They can receive values. If you put variables here, it means that your program should be assigned values. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? If you put variables here, we have to assign values to the variable, because I taught you in JavaScript that when you declare a variable, let me see if my camera is working well. I taught you in JavaScript that when you declare a variable, you have to initialize it. Initializing a variable means you are assigning a value to it. Okay, good. So when you put variables in the main here, when you put variables in here, you have declared a variable, to you have to initialize it. Initializing a variable means you are assigning a value to it. Okay, but look at our program here. We have not put variables here. A string here is not a variable. Okay, a string here is a keyword. A string here is a data type, and this is what? Argument. It stands for argument because I told you that what we will put here is what? Argument. All right, if you pass variables into a method, it is called argument. So I'm trying to explain why the void here is written here. We have written void here because this main method did not receive any variables here. Have you seen it? It did not receive any variable, so we have put void here so that our program will not return any value. Do you understand? When you put variables here, it means that when you put variables in your method, it means that your methods, now your variables here, you have to initialize it. It means you have to assign a value to it, and when you assign a value to it, your program has to return the value, the result of the value. When you put variables here, Oberkramper, these are variables, so we assign values to the variables called Oberkramper. We assign variables to the we assign values to the variables called Kramper. Okay, and when you assign values to this, the values has to return result. When you assign values has to return their results. Okay, when we assign values to these variables, the values will return the result, whether they are yes or no, true or false. All right, good. But in this program, we have put void here because we don't have any variables here that will return a value. So void here simply means that our method does not return a value. I have told you that main here is a method. Our method does not return a value. So I'll finish explaining this code, which was automatically generated for us. Okay, now what I am going to do here is that I'm going to print an information on the screen for you to see. All right, good. So system dot out dot print line, system dot out dot print line. And what do I want to write? System dot out dot print line. What do I want to write? My camera, I don't want my program to go off. System dot out dot print line. What can we write here? This is our first Java programming language. This is our first Java project. This is our first Java project. Good. Oh, wow. We are done. Good. Good. I have explained all this, and let me explain this. System.out.println is used to display information by our compiler on our screen. Okay, this system.out.println, if you write any information and you want to print it, you write any information in Java, and you want to print it out, you use system.out.println. In JavaScript, I told you that if you want to print information, you use what? Go and watch the JavaScript video. So every programming language and the method it uses to print information on the screen. JavaScript uses system.out.println. This is like a formula. You don't question it. It's embedded in the library, this Java runtime system library. It is embedded in it to print out information. So this is our first Java project. So when we run this program by clicking on the run button here, our compiler will compile this bit code into machine code for us to read. So we are done with our first project. Let's run it. Okay. This is our Java project. The compiler has finished compiling this. So in our next tutorial, we are going to add more functionalities to coding. I have finished explaining theory. So now whatever we are going to do in Java programming language is practicals. This is our first Java project. We are done with this. Good. Good. I'm closing my. All right. How did you see the program? Did you enjoy Java? Java is used by billions of devices around the world. The founder of Java, the CEO of Java programming language, is the 7th richest man in the world, Larry Ellison. Okay, he owns Oracle, and Java is owned by Oracle. Java is an Oracle product. The company is called Oracle, right? So Java is highly demanded. It's one of the high in demanded programming languages. Java is highly demanded, so it's good to learn Java. I have done the theory. Everything we are going to do next on this episode will be practicals. Okay, so I'm signing out today. Okay, I'm signing out. Hey, why is this screen behaving this way? Good. If you want to learn Java, I'm going to leave my number on the screen. You can personally contact me if you want to learn any programming language. All right, good. So this is my number. Let me write my number here. 020 18 26 977. It's giving us an error. Don't mind, it's not part of the program. Okay, or plus 233 18. If you're out of the country, okay, if you want to learn anything on artificial intelligence, web server administration, Python, okay, ethical hacking, networking, everything, this number, get this number and let's link up. Let me clean this off. Good. Let me highlight on this. I've written something here. You see, it has given us this mark shows syntax error. It means that this code is wrong, but when I clean it, it will go off. It means that when you are coding in Eclipse and you make a mistake, the program will highlight the error to you and tell you that you have made an error in your coding. So I'm closing this. We are done for the day. Save. Good. Let me close this.